Good morning, County Board Supervisors, staff, and guests. We will sign in just a moment. We have two absent today, which would be Supervisor Hatchke and Supervisor Clark. And we have Supervisor Gleckner probably is going to try to do virtual from Bolivia. Good luck.
I'll have to mark
So we have the roll call. We need to do the.
Don't vote yet.
Don't vote.
I was going to say, doesn't she have to ask for the vote?
Please do not vote until I tell you to.
No. It's just my screen goes for next one.
Don't vote, you can't until she asks for it.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Those who are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a motion in a second for the agenda.
What's the motion?
Motion is Supervisor Dietrich, second is Supervisor Cleveland.
Diedrich and who?
Cleveland.
Okay. I have a motion by Supervisor Diedrich and a Supervisor Cleveland to approve the agenda. Please vote your ballot. You may vote, yes.
Supervisor Kleckner, how do you vote?
I can hear it very faintly, Sean. You might have, can you turn it up?
I can't hear it at all.
I can hear him talking, but I can't tell what he's saying. Ed, are you there? I'm sorry? Oh.
We'll move on. We have 19 yes, 0 no, 0 absent, abstain, and 2 absent. So we have a majority, and we'll move on with our meeting. A motion to approve the minutes. I have a motion by Supervisor Diedrich and a second by Supervisor Cleveland.
Yeah. No, it's approval of minutes.
If you look at our screen, it says majority vote.
Yeah.
There it is.
Right. Right. Now we need a motion to approve the minutes.
It's up already.
Did you make a motion, Supervisor?
And Emily seconded it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's up there.
But the rest of us
So-
didn't have it.
See, it goes right, don't vote.
Don't. Just wait till we get
So-
everything set.
I'm just gonna sneak in here quick. So the motion and the second come up on my screen. When I go to the next screen, it automatically goes to voting. Don't vote until Chair says to vote.
Oh, okay. Now we got it. We don't want to lock up the system.
Right, who was the motion by?
Motion is by Supervisor Dietrich, second is by Supervisor Boyd.
All right, I have a motion by Supervisor Diedrich and a second by Supervisor Voigt to approve the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections of the minutes? Seeing none, you may vote.
Supervisor Kleckner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 19 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, 2 absent. It has been passed by the majority vote. Communications.
I have just one communication that's at everybody's desk, and that is showing appreciation for Greg Brittnacker from the Veterans Service Office.
We'll place that on file. Public participation, there is none. Okay, special business. Introduction of Jason Pausma, our Economic Development Director. Jason? Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure.
And why you're here.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Jason Pausma. Thank you for having me, members of the board. I'm the new Economic Development Director, replacing Mary Correll, who I know has done a lot of good things here in the county. I know I have some big shoes to fill here for her. Most recently, I came from the city of Oshkosh, where I was the Economic Development Services Manager for the city there, working in community development. Before that, I worked for Outagamie County in the Development and Land Services Department there. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you. I look forward to carrying on all the things that Mary has going and starting some new things too. I know we're going to be hiring a new tourism position coming here soon to help promote Calumet County tourism as well. So thank you again.
And welcome aboard.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on the agenda, we're going to review and approve the 2023 Calumet County Strategic Plan. You had that all in your packet. Administrator Todd is going to go through it as much detail as you want, or if you have any questions, we can take care of them as well. Do you want him to go through the entire thing, or have you been able to review a lot of it? Give me a yes, no. It looks like you're going through it. All right.
Well, I just wanted to point out a few things. For newer board members, the process is to provide the strategic plan accomplishments to the Administrative Services Committee as the home committee. And I did that a week ago. And then to provide those to the full county board. Just about every department is highlighted underneath Goal 3. It's just important to note that these are not all accomplishments of the departments throughout the year, but highlighted from department heads to provide to you some significant things that have been accomplished. You'll see under Goal 1, we list certain things for you as board members, educational opportunities. These also are not all encompassing because you may have some specifically from participating in conferences or things that your home committee may have done for educational opportunities. Goal number 2, for attracting, developing, maintaining high-functioning county staff. Those are primarily out of Human Resources, Michelle Wright and her team, and some involvement with department heads, of course, are included there. Some specific things that you were a part of that you had approved in terms of, like the recruit officer is listed here. That was an important thing that you had allowed us to do, I think, outside of budget time, for the progression of individuals within the sheriff's office to retain and move people through those positions. Let's see. Nothing in terms of anything that I want to specifically highlight for you unless you had some questions as it relates to some of the accomplishments within the plan from 2022.
Go ahead.
So for 2023 strategic initiatives, most of you participated in the 4-hour session that I had facilitated with you and department heads, and some small group work specifically around goals within the departments, which are highlighted within 2, 3, and 4. We took those, if you recall, that you had worked through some trends, action items, and prioritized certain things to include in the strategic plan for 2023. I had asked department heads to take those charts and provide those specific goals under each area that you see here. The Administrative Services Committee had passed this as the strategic plan for 2023. It now goes before you as county board, and I believe it needs an action from you to adopt.
Are there any questions on any of the goals, Supervisor Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to ask about under maintenance, participated in planning for keyless building access throughout the courthouse. How does that affect us when we come in for committee meetings down the road?
John, do county board members get the card pass entry? So you'll get, instead of keys, if you need to enter, you'd have a key card, a pass card to be able to enter certain areas, and that'll be, security will be set by individual. So you'd be able to access it that way. Once it's in, I don't know the timing on down here, for example, John, is that months out for these meeting room doors? We won't? Okay. So the meeting rooms and the exterior doors would be the primary ones, Joe, but you would be provided that ability.
Additionally, the Appleton Public Library is in the Office Depot building, and I go there quite a bit, get books, but there's a guy that sits there and monitors the whole system right inside the doorway. Do we have anything like that going on here with communications where you can monitor different people in different rooms? You know, and I'm assuming at the library, it's make sure that people check out their books rather than walk out with them, the alarm goes off. I didn't ask them, but I'm seeing that.
Well, we have added the position for court security. So right now, it's a part-time position. I believe it's effective July as a full-time, right, Michelle? A full-time position. So right now, Craig Wendling provides that service for courts areas. At that entrance, there's that new small office space with a window. That's the closest we are currently for having somebody actually staff the front entrance. The key cards, the bonus to those is that we will be able to identify people entering through that system. So if I were to card swipe a secured area, it would show up on the software system to identify the access, so we know when people are coming and going.
Thank you.
Supervisor Dietrich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to commend this department heads and their staff for taking those flip charts and turning them into a readable and understandable and actionable document. I think they did a great job with that. The second thing I wanted to point out, on the very first goal on the new 2023 strategic plan initiatives, it's develop and maintain a highly functioning county board, and it says there, county board shall have an education, training, development plan. I want to just take this opportunity to encourage supervisors to consider if there are things you'd like to get retrained on or maybe reinforced this coming year. And in particular, since we're into the new board, about 10 months or so, maybe there's some things in talking to some of the newer board members, I know they expressed concern that some things hadn't been covered in their in-doc. So I would highlight those items, if you would, for Alice and Todd, so that they can get into the next in-doc, or maybe they can set something up in the coming year to cover those things. And there may be some things that even today you're not comfortable with or you're not sure of. Just reach out to Alice and Todd, and maybe there's something that can be done about that, because some old timers like myself don't think of these things, all right? It's just, we've done it, but the new eyes that we have here, 7 of you, probably have better insight on what needs to be done, and I just ask you to consider that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Dietrich. Supervisor Gens, or
Yep.
Supervisor Gens.
Thank you. I just want to reinforce what Ron just said. As a supervisor, I take this strategic plan very seriously, because we hang our hat on this. Everything we do is dictated by our strategic plan. In fact, the evaluation of our administrator is based upon the accomplishments, first of all, the setting of the plan initiatives for the year, and then later on, at the end of the year, the accomplishments that have occurred as a result of the strategic plan. So I just wanted to say, for me as a supervisor, this strategic plan is very, very important. And so I'm going to study it continually this year to make sure I understand everything that's in it. And again, if any of you would like to input on it, certainly feel free to do that. This is a living document, and so if you've got something that you really want to make sure is in our strategic plan, make sure that you make that known to Todd or Alice or one of the vice chairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gens. Any other? Supervisor Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question, and maybe it's more about clarification, if people could explain a little bit more about this. Under goal number 3, in regards to the sheriff, my question is, we haven't really heard much about this, or at least those of us that are not on a committee for this, about the wellness committee within the sheriff's department. Does that address certain things, like if the sheriff is getting a call to address someone that maybe doesn't need to be arrested but is in need of services, or maybe has a disability of those natures, is that under that wellness committee? Or, okay, is there anything for that within the sheriff's department for people that are more of a, for instance, say someone lives with an adult who is disabled and they need help, not necessarily in the form of being arrested. Is there anything that addresses that?
We can have Sheriff Bowe provide that information, but I know that some of the officers have gone through critical incident, is it critical incident training? Thanks, Michelle. Which is similar to that. It's dealing with individuals that may be possible mental health commitment, that kind of a thing. So how they deal with those individuals and de-escalate without having to either arrest or possibly commit to hospitalization. So they do have some of that
Okay.
training. I'm not sure how widespread that is. But we can certainly have Brett address that at some point.
Okay,
This is specifically as to supporting staff.
got it. Okay, it didn't really explain what this wellness committee was. I assumed it was more what you just said, addressing staff's wellness, because that's obviously very important within the department of the sheriffs. But as someone who is not part of this group when we were doing our strategic plan, for me personally, as a mother to autistic children, which will eventually become adults, I find it very important that our sheriff's department does get the training to deal with people that don't usually need to be arrested, but, you know, maybe sometime there may be an incident that may occur for a family like mine where your adult child is severely disabled and you need assistance, and I'm just wanting to make sure that our sheriff's department is versed in those instances and families. So that's something I'd like to see maybe come down the pike at some point within our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Voigt. I see no other questions, and I have a motion by Supervisor Huffberger and a second by Supervisor Steer to approve the strategic plan. Are there any other questions? You may vote your ballot.
Supervisor Kleckner, how do you vote?
Aye.
We have 19 yes, 0 no, 2 absent, so we have passed by a majority vote. Moving on to the resolutions, Resolution 2022-24.
Resolution approving amendments to Town of Chilton zoning ordinance on certain property in the Town of Chilton, property of Frederick and THERESA KOPITZKE, introduced by the Planning, Zoning, and Farmland Preservation Committee.
Do I have a motion?
Supervisor Schwallenberg.
Hmm?
Supervisor Schwallenberg.
All right, I have a motion by Supervisor Schwallenberg. Who's the second?
Supervisor Steer.
And Supervisor Steer is the second. And Supervisor Huffberger, would you speak to this resolution?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Frederick and THERESA KOPITZKE are requesting to rezone approximately 1.5 acres in the town of Chilton from the Farmland Preservation District to the General Agricultural District. The town of Chilton administers their own zoning and have approved the ordinance amendment for the rezone on February 2, 2023. For any zoning ordinances amendments to take effect within town zoning, a resolution is required to be approved by the county board.
Okay, are there any questions of Supervisor Huffberger regarding this resolution? If not, please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Kleckner, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, we have 19 yes, 0 nay, 2 absent, so it has been passed by the majority vote. Moving on to Resolution 2022-25.
Resolution to create one full-time equivalent Director of Special Education, one full-time equivalent Administrative Assistant, and one full-time equivalent Human Resources Generalist in the Calumet County Department of Administration, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
All right, I have a motion by Supervisor Schwallenberg and a second by Supervisor Voigt. And Supervisor Gens, would you speak to this resolution, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we need to refresh our memory on how we have gotten to this point with this resolution. 5 of our public school districts, Stockbridge, Brillion, New Holstein, Chilton, and Hilbert, have all been a part of a special needs program that we as a county have contracted with CESA for in the past. The executive director that we have had over quite a few years, brilliant mind, one of the most knowledgeable people probably in the country regarding the special needs programs, did all the work in regard to carrying out of that program for those 5, the special needs people in those 5 districts. He passed away several months ago, and then we began to realize that the value of his mind and the dedication that he had, this was his life's work. And he did such a good job with that we really didn't become overly involved in terms of carrying out that program. It just happened. He did all the details in it. Unfortunately, he took all of that to the grave with him. And we are at a point now where we've got a cohort of students across those 5 districts that need a seamless kind of approach to carrying out the special needs. In the vast amount of discussions that have occurred between Todd and the superintendents of those 5 districts, they've arrived at the point where the most viable option that we have right now is to say, okay, as a county, we will assume that responsibility of carrying out that for those 5 districts. Those students are at stake, their parents are there, and of course the wider impact on the community to assure that those special needs students are well cared for and developed to their maximum. And so this resolution says we'd like to eliminate the contract that we have had with CESA. We would like to, through the Department of our administration, provide improved special needs services to those 5 school districts of Calumet County. And in the process of doing that, creating 3 positions to assist us in regard to carrying out those responsibilities. I think if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. Otherwise,
All right, Supervisor Booty.
Thank you very much here. So, as I'm understanding the situation here, and based on how the resolution is written here, the HR generalist position that we would be creating, is that supporting only the special education services, or is that also serving other operations within the county?
It's a combination of things, Matthew. It would be in addition to. So a portion would be for the special education support, because the future would include teachers and paraprofessionals at the end of the school year. And also, I believe we included a portion of the ERP implementation and planning as well, to build some capacity as we move forward with that new system.
Okay. So then on the second page of this resolution here, the second whereas, where we talk about funding the HR generalist position, as I'm understanding this, for the calendar year 2023, the entirety of the HR generalist position is going to be supported through utilization of ARPA funds. Is that a correct understanding based on how this is written?
A portion.
A portion.
The $50,000 had been set aside for ERP implementation and can be supported through ARPA funds.
All right, and then the remainder of the funding for this position is going to come from?
A portion would come from the, now David, you can correct me if I'm wrong. A portion comes from Children with Disabilities Board funding, which is currently being utilized for positions within the CESA 7 contract, and I suppose there would be a levy attached to them beyond the DPI dollars.
And Department of Public Instruction.
Okay, so I just want to, I guess, make sure that the portion of this HR generalist that is supporting the special education fund is being supported through the Children with Disabilities funding.
Yes.
You know, because we have the special Children with Disabilities funding, which is not allocated to the entirety of the county equally. For those of you who may not understand that, only those taxpayers who live within the school districts who use this service pay the special Children with Disabilities tax levy. Within the city of Appleton, city of Brillion, and those school districts, for those groups, they do not pay that special tax levy.
Just to be additionally clear, I guess, the entire administrative function of the county, so our office, finance, HR, possibly legal, would also be now under, if this is approved, allocated portions of administrative overhead that we're now paying for CESA. So it goes just beyond even just the HR generalist position. I don't know to what extent, if David has any of that figured out yet, probably not. But just, so it's in addition to that as well, where those would be, dollars could also be further allocated.
Okay, and that was, I'd kind of be getting there eventually, but that was not really within the resolution body itself here.
Correct.
So, okay, well, thanks for adding that in there. And that is the only questions I've had.
All right, there are no further Supervisor Swallow.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to reiterate, too, that what Matthew also said is it's the 5 school districts. I happen to have constituents in 3 of those school districts. The other thing is I'm not sure whether the board is aware that we're unique as far as the state is concerned. There are only 3 counties that are involved in the special ed, and 2 of those other counties, Walworth and Brown, have freestanding schools. We happened to talk to a supervisor from Walworth last week, who I believe chairs their committee, Supervisor Irwin and myself. Their school has over 600 children, and they've got over 100 employees that are county employees. That's called Lakeland School, and it has been there since the late 1940s. And his comment was they will never get out of the special ed business. They are known statewide for the facility, for the services that they offer their children. I've served on the Children with Disabilities Committee for several years, and we were made aware since Dr. Barlev's death of things that we're going to try to resolve by doing this. I would hope that you would support this, because our children, who are special needs children, need these services. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Emily, did you have a question?
Oh, Supervisor Diedrich.
All right, Supervisor Diedrich.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to be sure that the full board understands the full ramification of what action we're taking today, which I fully support, by the way, so you know that going in. This is really a recognition that the county will take over the administration of this special ed program, as Supervisor Gens pointed out. But along with that, termination of the contract at the end of the school year, the county will most likely be picking up the 40 teachers and paraprofessionals and other individuals that are currently contracted to CESA 7 for doing this special education in the 5 school districts. So this is the first key step into taking over the program. The savings to the county, insofar as it's savings, it's not really savings, but the offset is that the money we pay CESA 7 will stay within the county, basically. So that will fund a lot of what we're talking about. The challenge for Kimberly and other people in the county is bringing these other 40 teachers under the umbrella of the county. That's the anticipated way it's going to work out. And Todd and Kimberly and Michelle have a lot of work to do to communicate that to the people who are currently employed in this capacity with CESA 7. So this is just the first key step into making this transition to the county. It's an important step, and I hope you all support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Diedrich. There being no further questions, please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Kleckner, how do you vote?
C. Oops. That's an I.
All right, we have 19 yes, 0 nay, 2 absent, and it has been passed by the majority vote. All right, moving on to ordinances. Ordinance 2022-08.
Ordinance to amend Chapter 82 zoning code on certain property in the town of BRILLION, property of GEIGER, introduced by the Planning, Zoning, and Farmland Preservation Committee.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Supervisor Steer and a second by Supervisor Schwallenberg. And Supervisor Huffberger, would you speak to this ordinance, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. This property has been annexed out of the city of BRILLION. GEIGER is requesting to zone approximately 5.25 acres in the agricultural residential district and approximately 14.75 acres in the exclusive agricultural preservation districts within the town of BRILLION. The subject properties were recently detached from the city of BRILLION, and this process is to establish the zoning districts for these properties as part of the detachment. Chris is available if you have specifics on this question. First time I've seen something like this.
All right, are there any questions regarding this ordinance? All right, if not, please vote your ballot.
Supervisor Kleckner, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
All right, we have 19 yes, 0 no, 2 absent, and it has been passed by the majority vote. Moving on to supervisory reports.
have to wait till I go to the next screen before you hit your buttons, please? So I can't do I guess you can do it on the county administrator's report. All right. Will do.
So Supervisor Booty.
Thank you very much. From January 23rd through the 25th, myself, along with Supervisors Dietrich, Stuckman, and our Highway Commissioner, attended the Wisconsin County Highway Association Winter Road School. There we received much discussion from state and national speakers. We installed a new executive director at that meeting. And I was going to highlight one of the particular topics we discussed was salt application, along with the secondary effects of salt application, which actually includes accumulation of salt concentrations in lakes and rivers, some leaching out of metals in the soils, and that just went to stress the importance of applying the correct amount of salt on our system and not overdoing it. Calibration of equipment is very important. In addition to saving money, it's also better for the fish in our rivers and lakes. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Booty. Okay. Supervisor Schwallenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know me, I always got to talk. Just a few items as far as human services are. The clinic that we hold for COVID in the courthouse is now being moved to Ascension, the hospital here in Chilton, because the service, I believe it was AMI, is no longer available. That used to come here and provide the immune vaccinations, excuse me. Our Chilton Meal site has been moved from City Hall to Stanton Place, and that's due to, they're going to be doing some extensive remodeling and I think adding on to their fire department there, so we're not quite sure how long that's going to be. One of the things that's in the administrator's report of the Lieutenant Governor visiting, I was there. We met in this salon that's just down the street, and there were 3 other businesses that were part of the bounce back. She asked, the Lieutenant Governor asked several questions about the application for the process, and they all complimented Mary Carell on the fact that she made things extremely easy for them to get the bounce back grant. But when it came to going to the bank to get the other loans they needed, that was much more difficult. So, and that's all I have to say. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Schwallenberg. I have just a couple things. You recall one of the gals, Brianna Meyer from the 4-H, talked to us last December. Well, she has been one of 4 in Wisconsin to represent not only Calumet County, but the Wisconsin as the district, as the ambassador program. It's called the Ambassador Summit in Washington, D.C. That's quite an honor for her because it's a very competitive application to be able to even be considered, and she was one of 4. So I just want to congratulate her. I did send her a congratulation card on behalf of the board, and just also thank Carlia for her instruction to these students, you know, to be able to do something like this. I think it's pretty neat. So I just wanted to let you know about that. On March 13th is our annual government day that we do with the American Legion and the Legion and the Auxiliary. It starts at 8:30 to 2:30. It isn't something any of you have to be here for. However, if you want to observe, you certainly can certainly are invited to do that. Mark O'Connell from WCA will be the guest speaker for that day, and these are for the 7th graders of the schools. Now, Holstein is the only school that's not participating. They did not participate.
Sorry, Stockbridge is not participating.
Stockbridge either? And Stockbridge, so. I have no idea why they do not want to. I know Holstein wanted all of their kids, which would be 80 of them, and we're only asking for 6 from each school because we can't handle 80 plus some students, so just want to let you know that. It's a great program. It's something we've been doing for many, many, many years. We used to do it with the high school students, but we found it more interesting to have the younger students from the 7th and 8th grade because we seem to make a better impression on them of what county government is. And as a result of this now, I know they're going to be having to teach more civics in the schools now about government and things like that. So I just wanted to let you know about that. And our 3 retirees for this month of March were Gary Steyer. He was the investigator for the sheriff's office. He was here for 27 years. And Bonnie Bodart, she was with the Health and Human Services for 30 years. And Michelle Main, who was with the Clerk of Circuit Court and the District Attorney's Office for 23 and a half years. And I certainly congratulate them for their dedicated service to Calumet County. Moving on to the County Administrator report. Were there any questions regarding his report? If none, our next regular meeting will be March 21st at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we will now go into, I need a motion to go into closed session. I have a motion by Supervisor Steer and a second by Supervisor Miller.
Is it locked? All right, I'm locked up. Supervisor Cleveland? How do you vote? Yep.
Press your buttons to vote for closed session.
Supervisor Kleckner, how do you vote?
vote aye.
Thank you.
All right, we have 19 yes, 0 nay, 2 absent. And I'm going to turn this over to Supervisor Gens, who's the chair of the Administrative Services Committee.
People have to leave.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just wait 1 second.
He
Are we
really,
sure Ed
he
is
well,
by
he shouldn't be on.
Okay.
You have to disconnect.
Ed, because this is closed session, we're going to disconnect with you.
Okay.
Have a good week.
Gracias for accommodating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.